This game is so beautiful that some called it the game of the year 2019. We're having a look back at these old Magnus classics in view of the fact we're waiting for the Esports World Cup coming soon 2025. In this game, he destroyed Anish Giri, an absolute positional masterpiece from the Gashimov Memorial. Classical time control, so as you can see on the left there, they've both got a couple hours. Buckle your seatbelts. Let's watch the world chess champion in action. The four horsemen of the apocalypse gallop into the game. I really feel like this up and coming Indian boy band should be called that. How good does the four horsemen of the apocalypse sound? Vid it on some stunning lead vocals. Now we see G3. Magnus builds the banana hammock as Giri takes the center, and this is the most aggressive placement of the bishop. Both players get the kings to safety. Quick fist bump at the board. Exploded out. Great etiquette. The top guys love it. H6, it's a good move because it takes away key squares from the minor pieces and we get an exchange. The queen is now in the line of fire from that sniper, but Magnus just goes A3. No actual good way to take advantage right now. And of course he wants to expand, so Giri goes to Clamptown. Now we see the bishop developing, looking for work. The queen steps off the line of the bishop. This rook looking for some action, covered by the lady here, and Magnus hits that promising diagonal, knight d4, and let's take a pause, because you never take this knight. Let's test some positional understanding here. Why not? This is a bad structure for white. Backwards pawn, pressured, annoying, advanced d pawn. So, no knight takes, of course. Magnus plays pawn e3, takes his plate here, and he goes with queen recaptures, preparing to get aggressive, and this move looks weird. But you see it in a lot of structures, king's pawn structures. This started as a queen's pawn game, but anytime white breaks now, the bishop will come to life. So it's solid there, stable, makes some sense. Magnus gets aggressive here, opens the eyes of that one. This is of course just generally annoying. You can't exactly kick away the queen. It's exerting influence here, and now we see pawn to c ships, blunting this guy, and this is the moment. Magnus plays a move here I would never in a million years play. I feel like you either play this move if you suck at chess or you're just an absolute goat at chess. Can you guess what he played? So the move he played is not d4 or rook fe1, d1. That's what most grandmasters would do, right? Just something a bit normal. He goes f4.
What? What? Pooh. What a move. What a move.
Who does that? Allowing takes, bringing the bishop to life, the black queen to life, and then recapturing with the g pawn, allowing takes with check, king h1. Look at the sorry state of Magnus's king suddenly, but he understands something deeper here. He now has an attack, an initiative, an open board for his bishops to start roaming, a g-file maybe to work with. Now what if you take this pawn, another pawn gobbled? Well, now you run into this, and the queen cannot stay with the bishop. Queen here, we chop it off, then win a bishop. Queen here, chop it off, win a bishop. So do not touch the second pawn. That's important. And also, what if you go f6? Just trying to blunt things, top move of the engine. Well, Giri didn't play this because it just looks suicidal on the light squares here. Now the all-powerful engine finds this absolutely miraculous defense. Who on earth plays like this, wandering the king out to the middle of the board, giving up the g-pawn? I mean, it's absolutely inhuman. No one does this. It's the way to still be worse, but slightly less worse, right? So obviously Giri didn't do that. He instead played rook d8. So he covers the bishop, but also prepares to drop it back and defend. But now Magnus brings the action here. Don't take the pawn. This time, you're not losing a bishop, fine, but f5 is a rude awakening because you cut the queen from the defense. Now if you play, say, bishop f8 to cut the king, Well, here's a sample line where you just win a rook. Where's the queen going? You're going to lose a rook. They're not connected. I mean, I don't want to go down every single line. Point is, too dangerous to open more lines of attack. You have to start trying to trade pieces. So this is what was played. Magnus, of course, doesn't allow it. Intercepts this one, opens pieces some more. F6 is hugely on the cards at the right moment. But again, if you go pawn F6 yourself, bang. Look at this crash through from white. You're just getting absolutely pummeled. Go somewhere, you're even losing a rook soon, getting mated. You cannot do F6. So bishop F8 was tried, and now Magnus cements this bishop in the middle of the board. Looks a bit weird at first, but he's cleared the G file. Hang on, what if now F6 really make that bishop look stupid, pawn not going anywhere? Well, the problem is you crash through. Let's not show the line, we just explored, you're dead meat. So we get rook d5 instead. Really nice idea, desperate for Magnus to give up a bishop. No chance, siree. You can't advance the pawn though, or you drop the queen here. So Magnus, whoops, now plays the rook lift of rook to f3. He whispers, do you even rook lift, bro? And Giri changes the nature of the defense here. No, he doesn't, sorry. Let me show that in a minute. What happens if g6 is what I wanted to say. Using this pin here, well, how about this for a cool line that I found? Takes and bang. That's not just check, that's checkmate. Absolutely love it. So no time for g6. You'll get mated. So b5 was played. What on earth is that? It's like your house is on fire and you take a time out to go and do a bit of gardening, maybe try and get rid of a weed or something. But the point is, you can bring this guy into the defense. Rook g1, of course, blasting down. And rook a7 sets a sneaky trap. You know, has black just blundered? Takes, right? There's a pin. Great move. Well, look at that. The butt flap just fell out of Stockfish. Because what's the counter shot? Yes, you can remove the piece that's causing the pawn to be pinned, then pick up the queen. Don't do that. Black's winning. So let's run back here. Instead, we get this bishop f6 move. I mean, it just gets better and better, this game. This whole attack. And Giri now changes the nature of the defense by playing pawn g6, trying to use this pin and everything. But it begs the question, what if you just went some random move? Tried to stay steady? Well, this is how the game could proceed. You double stack on the file, and this is the problem. You're simply breaking through. You don't even need to move this pawn or anything. So if you do this, then you can still crash through. One sample line. Black even is obliged to give up the queen. Here's how the game could go. This is a one position for white. Let's run back. We did not see b4, just waiting. g6 immediately from Giri, saying please take, I win your queen. This time it doesn't lead to a checkmate. You know, the rook's in the way there. Sorry, the bishop's in the way of the rook. The king could take. Plus there's lines where you sacrifice stuff. Not working. You can't give up the queen. What you can do is crash through. Magnus doesn't find it, but this would have been cool. You have to find bishop c3 though, threatening f6. Not so easy, but completely winning. You feel like Kasparov would have continued like that, right? Shades of his epic attacks. But Magnus didn't take here. We see queen h3 instead. And this sets such a deadly trap. Because if you go bishop g7, looks so natural to try and defend that king. I went pretty deep on this one, as you can see. You can capture and check. And where to go? Here, right? Stay with the pawn. You don't want the queen coming, giving you the lollies, mate. But now you lose a bishop. Never even got off the starting blocks and you ate it. It's like the poor little piggy made his house of wood. So what do we see in the game? No bishop g7, rook d6, trying to take that annoying bishop. Daring white to take here, open the defense, but then lose the queen. Obviously Magnus doesn't do it. He goes queen h4 simply to cover. Now threatening to take and crash through, right? So what to do? Don't go g5 to try and interrupt connection. This is a gargantuan way to lose. If takes, that's mate. If king h7, well, you just drop back and you're covered again and you're dying slowly. So we didn't see g5, of course. Rook takes was played. Really natural exchange shack, just trying to get rid of a piece. Giri goes bishop e7. Why not this? I never really checked. Oh, you start checking here. It's nasty. So he goes here, and he's done a really good job of staving off this attack. But boy, is he down on time. 20 minutes. Magnus has nothing better but to cash in on a material grab and just maintain pressure. King g7 is played to cover this pawn another time. From all of this pressure, why not take here? Well, then you run into this. Tables have turned. That's how fast chess can change. But Magnus sees it. He takes on g6. Pawn recaptures. He wants bishop e8 to put the pressure on here. But then you run into this bishop b7. So d4 for the score. This is such a stunning game. Giri goes pawn a4 here. Looks so weird, but we're going to see the point. Magnus carries on, blocking this diagonal now, well and truly, and now before Magnus can do anything else, Giri pushes p, and this is the point of his earlier a4. Now you can't glide on by, supported by the bishop, because that pawn stands there. So we see instead bishop e8 from Magnus. And when I first saw this move, I was like, okay, he wants to crash through to the king on the g6 pawn, makes sense, but I completely missed a second point. If you push g5, now what does white do? And of course, crash through here. You were threatening two different things with two different rooks. King goes, okay, bishop doesn't drop, supported, but what if you intensify the pressure? How to move the bishop and save this rook? Bishop c5, of course. Takes, now bishop here, threatening the rook to slam down and win a bishop. So bishop f5, but now still check, king up, check, you couldn't come to f7, it was covered, and you win a bishop. These lines are just so beautiful, the geometry, right? So we run it back here, bishop g5 was played. Opens the rook to cover f7, covers the attack on the pawn, but not for long, sorry. Magnus plows down the board with the h-pawn, takes, he crashes through with an almighty thunderous roar. Now he plays rook c6, poor Giri getting smashed, where to go? He goes for this one, hitting the rook. He sees, of course, that this is a double attack, but he's prepared this move to cover the bishop, but he loses on time in this position. However, the game was done anyway. There's this very nice tactic to finish, an interceptor. Do look for it if you want to. The move is bishop g6. Rook g6 was working too. And now you're threatening to take one of these guys. And if you do this, well, you chop off the rooks, king takes, then win a bishop. You can jump back to not lose a second, but the b pawn drops, soon the a pawn, 2 pawns ahead, exchange up, game over. Not premature, loss on time, resignation. Absolutely loving these old games. Hope you are too. And have a look at the video on screen in case you missed the absolutely incredible game that Magnus played last year. Jan Nepomniachtchi was just stunned by what he was seeing. Thanks a lot for watching and see you soon. Cheers.